It's been far too long since I've had a video update of the layout. I haven't done a lot in the last couple of years other than host operating sessions, so as far as anything really new, there's not a whole lot. I do have a couple new scenes that I will point out as I go by them. Right now, we'll just start out with a little tour. We are at Temple Yard. This is really the nerve center of all operations on the layout. As you can imagine, it's a hub of activity when we have op sessions. Temple Yard originates 2 manifests, terminates 2 manifests, and also swaps blocks for a couple of their high priority manifests, and every switch job in the layout comes off the Temple Yard. So we go to Temple West. One of the new scenes that comes into sites here is just a little backdrop scene I tried to put in. I had some space and I was waiting to come up with an idea of something to do here. So what I've done is I've taken a photo backdrop, and Google Earth is really handy when it comes to finding obviously prototype businesses, but certainly in the area that I'm modeling, and this here of course being Temple, Texas. Also note that we have a manifest rolling through Temple at the same time I'm doing this tour, so a little bonus footage. The scene itself is pretty simple. I've used a photo backdrop, and what I've tried to do is add depth into the foreground, and I've done so just by basically creating some concrete, some dirt, and some grass that provides a parking area. There'll be access to some of these, I don't want to say storefronts, but certainly shops. So I was able to tie in fairly well with a backdrop road, and I've picked up this. You see there, the actual overhang looks pretty realistic. That is the photo backdrop, and then I've just tied a few buildings together to fill this block, so to speak. And then the Temple feed and supply, I've put some background silos and elevators in there as well. So that was a project that I did last winter now. And when I did that project, I also did another project coming out of Lubbock where the staging is. Again, just space that I hadn't really come up with an idea of anything I wanted to do with. So starting to get some signage. Details are one of the things that I probably work on more in the next year or so. Just try to add some realism to the scenes, even some depth to the scenes. Got the Temple fuel pad here. A couple industries on the west end of Temple. It's Temple feed and supply, and we have Pactive, and also a team track here with will service a variety of loads, and we'll load a number of different types of freight cars as well. So it adds a little bit of variety, and really you can see pretty much any car show up at the siding at some point in time. So we'll work our way west out of Temple. Again, nothing's happened, but what we'll do is we will get a good view of the layout as it rises up to the second level. As we rise, you can actually see that manifest freight that left Temple is now pulling into Texas staging. I've got it on continuous run right now, so it'll just loop the whole layout. But anyways, we go up gain some elevation here to get to the second level. And this is really a transition scene that takes us from the sort of southern part of Texas up through the Lanos Estacado and up to more of the high plains that you'd see in northwest Texas. And gain the elevation through a rock cut here. The track is back behind there, believe it or not. And we continue upgrade, and we start moving towards Edgeview, and this is our first passing sighting. Edgeview is stretched out about 12 feet from end to end, and I've put a few industries in there. It's a 12-inch shelf, but I was able to put pyramid cement in here, so that will get or load covered hoppers with powdered cement. There's also the West Texas Co-op at Edgeview. Seems to always have at least 2 or 3 cars sitting on the siding here. We continue west, and we see that we have a team track there. At times Edgeview Lumber will bring loads in there, but even farm machinery will show up from time to time. And finally over here we have Brady Vista. So it's a machine and metals company. It'll load product out in box cars, but also brings coils in of steel. And then we have Garza Oil. And then we'll head further west towards Slaton. The only bridge on the layout, not the most prototypical, but it's a stand-in for now. And single track main line that's connecting points in Texas with the west coast and western parts of Texas. And then the line heads off towards Slaton, which is our next passing siding. Now, I call my layout the Slaton subdivision. The reality is it's a portion of the Lampasas and the Slaton. But when you try to compress several hundred miles into 200 feet, you have to make some sacrifices. So we pull into Slaton. This is the east end siding. We have the Supreme Feeds. You can see we've got 2 tracks. Services Industries in Slaton here. The back track and even the fore track is often used for setting up blocks of cars that are for the elevator. We also have Lone Star Building Supplies. And then if we go a little bit further, last industry, this end of the layout is Southern Fuel Distributors, and there's a siding there that can hold a spot for 1 tank car. And I'll hold here for a second because it looks like we have an eastbound. This is the same train we saw earlier. It's now making a loop. It takes about, at this speed, probably about 10 to 12 minutes for a train to make the complete run. I operate really at a lower speed. I don't like to run trains too fast. There's a little bit better feel for time and distance when you can operate at a little more prototypical speed. Some dirty track there, but this is all part of getting ready for an op session. Getting the cobwebs off. It's been 3 months since the last op session, and I've actually run very few trains since that session, so a little work to be done, but by the time we get the session going, everything's running pretty smooth. Alright, we'll cut out here and then go back to Temple. I lied. Before we go back to Temple, I'm going to show the section of the layout here that replaced the Helix about 5 years ago. And I was able to stretch it out with some narrow scenery. And basically what it does a loop around the furnace. But it at least gives certainly better for the operator to follow their train along through the countryside rather than through a 3-loop Helix. And that will take you down to the lower end towards staging in Lubbock, which I'll show. You know, I'm going to go to Lubbock next actually and show some of the additions that I've made. So below Slaton is Lubbock, which I had not modeled really, other than the fact that we called it Lubbock for staging. However, I've had this space here and I've always wanted to do something with it. It just took me a while to figure out what that would be. And this was the last portion of the layout that was plywood. Going to a train show, I actually found a few kits, gave me some ideas, and I was able to come up with a concept that I think works for the space and just adds a little variety to the scene. One thing I'll note here is this old freight shed. You can see that the rails no longer service that, but what I've done is I've taken the programming track and I've set it here in place crossing this road. And this is a really quick programming track if I need it during a session or before a session. It works out quite well. So yeah, so I've got the few buildings in the scene here. This way, and it's just a bit of road. You can see it's really taken out. Let's flip the angle a little bit. I've really taken the time to put the cracks in the asphalt on the patches on the road, and then it road curves away, ends here, and there's the track that rises up that we just saw and heads up to Slaton. I'll backtrack real quick through here. Point out one more thing is I've actually included the skyline for Lubbock because it leads into staging, so it gives it a bit of sense of place anyhow. All right, back at Temple, we'll explore the east end real quick before heading up the branch line to Brady, Texas. So we come to the east end of the yard. You see Pillsbury in the background. That's one industry, and that's actually serviced off an industrial lead here. Comes off the passing siding, and that lead, catch up in a minute, takes us over to Wilson Art and Mars Pet Care. Before jumping and following that, I'm going to point out Jarvis Scrap Metals. See, there's our road leading towards Wilson Art. And Mars Pet Care. Both are accessed through here. Before you get all the way to Mars, we'll watch this train go by. So we've got a westbound hot shot. The horsepower per ton ratio is pretty high in this one with 6 units. And it's a short train too. So it's snaking its way around the Temple Yard. And then to Mars Pet Care. There's 2 tracks here. One is where the material comes in on the hoppers. There's some little bays in the track there where that will unload, and the box cars are used along the actual shipping doors there for shipping the product out. And then sneak back in there, you can see the couple tracks for Wilson Art. If we pull back a little bit, we'll see the track that heads down to Texas Staging and disappears down there. To the right, you see an embankment. That's the branch line to Brady, and we're gonna follow that one in a second. All right, the branch to Brady actually comes off the yard lead on the east end of Temple. Funny little story on where this branch started. One of the operators working Temple Yard asked if he could get a little extra room on the east end, if I could make the lead a little bit longer, and I thought, well, it had previously ended right here, but I thought maybe there's an opportunity here to actually put a branch line on the layout. And so that's what I did. I extended that yard lead into a branch line. And so this upper track, now this is the one that heads towards Brady. You can see the track on the left, that's when it goes down to the Texas Staging. This is the line to Brady. I have to make a cut here as I get around a wall. This is the only duck under on the layout, and when I run a session, it's really only in place for about a third of it. 48 inches off the ground, so generally not too difficult to get around. So it spans across here, and once the Brady job's done, we just lift it out, and there's no issue for the operators. So Brady in 1993 was certainly busy enough with sand mining. That business really picked up in the years afterwards, especially with all the fracking, the oil industry in Texas and beyond. Unfortunately, my understanding right now is that a lot of that sand traffic has disappeared off the Brady branch. I'll wrap this video up back in Temple. Just at the fuel pad here, you see a couple sets of power. These ones will be getting ready to work the yard and the locals the next session. There's also another pair of units in Temple Yard right now. But yeah, I apologize. It's been a while since I've had a video on the layout. It's still here. We're still operating. That's really all that's happening right now is operations. Life just gets busy, and that's the way it is. But yeah, I will do my best to try to get some more videos out there. And if there's any content you want to see, I'm happy to share more. Just provide some feedback. I get some videos, hopefully talk a little bit about some of the track. I have a unique, philosophy on track and weathering track. The track is code 100 on the mains and yard. The branch line is 83, but I think the track looks pretty good once you dress it up with some weathering. So I do want to talk about that at some point. I want to talk about operations, setting up operating sessions. Also want to talk a little bit about tips and tricks for realistic operation and derailment-free operation. So that's one of the key goals I have here. So I'll say goodbye as I pan over the Temple skyline. And if you stuck around this long, thanks a lot for watching. Everybody, take care.